السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء، واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله تعالى، وخير الهدى هدى محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. Inshallah, today it is Sunday, the 18th of Dhul-Qadah, 1445, matching the 26th of May, 2024. This is our session number 13, going through this book titled The Profitable Business, the authentic narrations from the profitable business in the reward of the good deeds. صحيح المتجر الرابح في ثواب العمل الصالح. And we are at ثواب السواك. ثواب السواك, the reward of siwak. Siwak is the tooth stick, the brush. It's usually they used to cut it from the trees. The best of it is the arak tree, and they use other trees. I'm sure you have seen cut from the zaytun trees. Some brothers have it here. They bring it from the Holy Land, الأرض المقدسة, from Palestine. So it is meant for it to clean the teeth. And the scholars mentioned that also using like the toothbrush and the toothpaste and the likes of that, inshallah it will serve the purpose bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So it takes the same ruling inshallah ta'ala. So this is the case. You try to clean your teeth as much as you can for the salah and for the ibadat, and it's a daily habit throughout the day. عن عائشة رضي الله عنها, from عائشة رضي الله عنها, أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال, that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, السواك مطهرة للفم مرضاة للرب. السواك, this tooth stick, مطهرة للفم, it is a purification for the mouth. مرضاة للرب, it is a pleasure for the Lord. It serves to please the Lord, satisfies the Lord. رواه النسائي وابن خزيمة وابن حبان. Those scholars narrated this hadith. ورواه البخاري معلقا مجزوما, and Imam al-Bukhari narrated it معلقا, in a pending form. معلق, pendant, meaning not the full chain is mentioned. مجزوما, but he referred it in a certain way, like قال, he said, not قيل, or it was said, or it was mentioned, not like that. معلقا, in a pendant form, but مجزوما به, يعني in a certain in a certain way, definitive way, it is referred to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, although not with the full chain. The ahadith in Sahih al-Bukhari that the scholars talk about, that they are all authentic, they are the ahadith with the full chain. The ahadith with the full chain. طيب. ورواه أحمد من حديث ابن عمر. It is narrated by Imam Ahmad from the hadith of Ibn Umar, and At-Tabarani min hadith Ibn Abbas. Also At-Tabarani narrated it from the hadith of Ibn Abbas. وزاد فيه, and he added in it, and this addition is a weak addition. And the Sheikh highlighted that, but I don't know why he left it there, since the book is Sahih, only. مجلاة للبصر, it serves to clear the eyesight. مجلاه, تجلو البصر. It means it makes your eyesight better and clearer. Right? But this addition is not authentic. On a side note here, he says, صحيح إلا زيادة ومجلاة للبصر فضعيفة. Right? And I have it here, they put it in the footnote in this print. Right? There is something else that Rasulullah ﷺ said, يجلو البصر, clears the eyesight. Who knows the hadith? كحل. Yes. That one. And that one is يجلو البصر. طيب. So it is in صحيح الجامع and other books. It says عليكم بالإثمد فإنه يجلو البصر وينبت الشعر. I counsel you to إثمد. This is the كحل used from the إثمد substance. Right? It clears the eyesight and it grows the hair يعني around the eyes. Right? So that one is authenticated by Sheikh Al-Albani and others. طيب. The next hadith is يعني the hair of the baldy. You need to go to Turkey for that. I'm sure you see a lot of ads. Everybody see a lot of ads there. نعم. Yes. Okay. The next hadith is متفق عليه وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه, upon the authority of Abi Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him. يعني that some scholars they say about the hair planting. Some scholars say no, but some scholars they say it's allowed because you're not يعني you're not putting something, you're not doing something new, you're not changing the creation, you are bringing it back to what it was, and they're using your hair to plant. They take from one side, they put in the other side, right? Inshallah. See, mashallah. You need a visit to Turkey, I guess, with the fatwa of those scholars. طيب. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه, upon the authority of Abi Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال, that the messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم said, لولا أن أشق على أمتي, were it not for me making it difficult for my nation, لأمرتهم بالسواك عند كل صلاة, then I would have commanded them to siwak, to use the siwak, the toothstick, عند كل صلاة, at the time of every prayer, at every prayer. رواه البخاري ومسلم. ورواه أحمد وابن خزيمة. Also Imam Ahmad and Ibn Khuzaymah narrated it, except that they both said, لأمرتهما, the wording there, لأمرتهم بالسواك مع كل وضوء, I would have commanded them to siwak, that is to use the siwak with every wudu. وابن حبان, also Ibn Hibban narrated it, إلا أنه قال, except that he said, مع الوضوء عند كل صلاة, commanded them to siwak with wudu at every prayer. وعن علي رضي الله عنه, and upon the authority of Ali رضي الله عنه, أنه أمر بالسواك وقال, that he commanded the siwak, to use the siwak. وقال, he said, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, the messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم said, إن العبد إذا تسوك, when the servant of Allah brushes his teeth with the siwak, ثم قام يصلي, then he gets up to pray, قام الملك خلفه, the angel would stand behind him, فيستمع لقراءته, so he listens to his recitation. فيدنو منه كلما قرأ آية, so he gets closer to him every time he recites an آية أو كلمة نحوها, or a word like it. He said a word like it. حتى يضع فاه على فيه, up until he places his mouth on his mouth. The angel places his mouth on the mouth of the reciter. فما يخرج من فيه شيء من القرآن, so nothing comes out of the Quran from his mouth إلا صار في جوف الملك, except that it would be inside of the belly, the inside of the angel, يعني mouth to mouth. فطهروا أفواهكم للقرآن, so purify your mouths for the Quran. رواه البزار بإسناد جيد, narrated by البزار with a good chain. وعن جابر رضي الله عنه قال, and upon the authority of Jabir, may Allah be pleased with him, who said, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, that the messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم said, ركعتان بالسواك, 2 ركعات with the siwak, يعني by with using the siwak, أفضل من 70 ركعة بغير siwak, is better than 70 rak'ah without siwak. So he has a footnote here. It says حسن لغيره. He chose to judge this hadith to be حسن لغيره, for other than it. You have حسن لذاته, حسن because of itself. يعني that one chain you see is a hasan. This hadith is hasan because the chain of it is by itself, in of itself is good. But when you say hasanun li ghayrihi, is good because of other than it, meaning when you count the different routes, then it becomes hasan. This is the judgment of the Shaykh here. He says, وقد جمع طرقه ابن الملقن في البدر المنير. Ibn al-Mulaqqin, this is one of the well-known scholars, fiqh and hadith, Shafi'i scholar. He collected its routes in his book titled Al-Badr al-Munir. He said, وَمَنْ وَقَفَ عَلَى تِلْكَ الطُّرُقِ يَجْزِمُ بِثُبُوتِ الْحَدِيثِ. The one who looks at and sees those, looks through them, the routes, he will be certain that the hadith is established, is يعني authentic. That is the judgment of the Sheikh here. And in my copy, he added that السخاوي said في المقاصد الحسنة عن طرقه. He said about it in this book. السخاوي is one of the also scholars of hadith. He mentions that in the same regard about the siwak, yani the same thing, rak'ah, the siwak without siwak, 70 times the better. That there are narrations from Ibn Hurayra, Abi Hurayra, Ibn Abbas, Anas, Jabir, Ibn Umar, likewise Darda, Jubair ibn Nufayr, Mursalan with the pending form. وبعضها يعتضد ببعض. Some of these narrations, they support the other. ولذا, because of this reason, أورده الضياء في المختارة من جهة بعض هؤلاء. The scholar الضياء in his book titled Al-Mukhtara, he selected some ahadith and put them in his book. He mentioned this hadith from the side of those narrators. He said, وقول ابن عبد البر في التمهيد عن ابن معين. As for the statement of the scholar Ibn Abd al-Barr, which he quoted from Ibn Ma'in, إنه حديث باطل, that this hadith is false or invalid. هو بالنسبة لما وقع له من طرقه. This is invalid or false based on the routes that he looked at. But for the other routes, they're not as bad as this. Now, many scholars, they say this is not an authentic hadith. Right? But the Sheikh mentioned it here, and he will mention other ahadith. I'll mention the statement of Ibn al-Qayyim also. وعن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما, from Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with them both, أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال, that he said عليه الصلاة والسلام, لأن أصلي ركعتين بسواك أحب إلي من أن أصلي 70 ركعة بغير سواك. For me to pray 2 units of prayer, 2 ركعات with siwak, using the siwak, is more beloved to me than to pray 70 ركعة without siwak. رواهما أبو نعيم في كتاب السواك بإسنادين حسنين. Abu Nu'aym narrated this in his book السواك. He has a whole book on siwak, with 2 good chains. وعن عائشة رضي الله عنها, upon the authority of Aisha رضي الله عنها, عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال, from the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, that he said, فضل الصلاة بالسواك على الصلاة بغير سواك 70 ضعفا. The excellence of the prayer with siwak over the prayer without siwak is 70 times, 70 folds. رواه أحمد وأبو يعلى وابن خزيمة والحاكم. And Al-Hakim said, صحيح على شرط Muslim, that it is authentic according to the conditions of Muslim, the condition of Muslim, right? يعني, Allah knows best. يعني. You will find a lot of discussion about this hadith, and many scholars do not view it to be authentic, including Sheikh Al-Albani rahimahullah and others. But then many of those who they would authenticate by adding the routes together, they may go for the fact that it is authentic. Now what Al-Imam Ibn Al-Qayyim did in his book Al-Manar Al-Munif في الصحيح والضعيف, which is one of the interesting books of Al-Imam Ibn Al-Qayyim, is not a big book. It's not a big book, but he will tell you any hadith that has this word is not authentic. Any hadith that talks about such and such is not authentic. Is a very not big, but very interesting. So he discussed this book at the beginning of his book, and he said, I was asked about salatun bisiwak, this hadith. كيف يكون هذا التضعيف? How is it that this is weak? And he mentioned, right, the different statements of the scholars, right? He said, فهذا حال هذا الحديث. يعني he mentioned a lot of scholars that said it's not that strong. Then he said, وإن ثبت فله وجه حسن. And if it is authentic, if it is established, then it has a good way of looking at it. There is a good aspect to it. وهو, and that is, أن الصلاة بالسواك سنة. That prayer with siwak is a sunnah. والسواك مرضاة للرب. And the siwak is something that pleases the Lord. وقد أكد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم شأنه. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم emphasized the affair of the siwak. Right? أكد شأنه. وقال, now he starts mentioning the many hadith about السواك. Right? يعني 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and more, يعني 8, 9, 10, 12, يعني including when he gets up from sleep. When he goes home, he starts with the siwak. When he gets up, we did that in the Sunan al-Yawmiyah, if you remember. Siwak, we did that in the daily Sunan. And part of that is whenever he comes home, he will start with siwak. And at every wudu and every salah, as you've heard, right? And even Al-Imam Al-Qayyim, he says, وَاسْتَاكَ عِنْدَ مَوْتِهِ وَهُوَ فِي السِّيَاقِ. He used the siwak, alayhi salatu wasalam, at the time of his death when he was في السياق, يعني in the course of dying, about to die. يعني the brother of Aisha radiallahu anha, he came in, he had siwak in his hand, so Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam looked at it. So Aisha figured it out. She said, "You want the siwak?" He said, "Yes." So she took it, she cut it, and she softened it with her teeth. She bit on it, right? We did that when we did the book by Imam al-Hafiz ibn Rajab, if you remember, the death of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? لطائف المعارف, مختصر لطائف المعارف. Still all the videos are there. So she softened it by her teeth. She was biting on it to soften it for him, alayhi salatu, because he was like very weak. And she gave it to him. She said, the last thing is my saliva with his saliva. The last thing. طيب. So he used it while he was dying, alayhi as-salatu was-salam. And he mentions other narrations in that, more and more, you know, I don't know how many I mentioned already. Yani so many ahadith, right, in different occasions. Yani maybe I don't know, maybe 30 narrations here he was referring to. Some of them mentioned. Yani I don't want to go through all of that. He said, وَإِذَا كَانَ هَذَا شَأْنُ السِّوَاكِ وَفَضْلُهُ. If this is the affair of the siwak and its excellence, وَحُصُولُ رِضَى الرَّبِّ بِهِ, and that the pleasure of the Lord is achieved through it, وإكثار النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم على الأمة فيه, and the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم excessively mentioning it to the ummah, إكثار الأمة, commanding them, telling them to use siwak, ومبالغته فيه حتى عند وفاته, him going to the extent, the fullest extent, even at the time of his death, وقبض نفسه الكريمة, and at the time when his noble soul is being taken, عليه الصلاة والسلام. If that is the case, لم يمتنع أن تكون الصلاة التي يستاك لها, it won't be then impossible that the salah which you use the siwak in it, أحب إلى الله من 70 صلاة, would be more beloved to Allah than 70 prayers. Right? So whether the hadith is authentic or not, Al-Imam Ibn al-Qayyim, after the discussion he did and the many hadith in this, he said it's not strange that salah with siwak would be multiplied 70 times. It's not strange. وإذا كان ثواب السبعين أكثر, if the reward of the 70 times is more, فلا يلزم من كثرة الثواب أن يكون العمل الأكثر ثوابا أحب إلى الله تعالى من العمل الذي هو أقل منه. If the reward of the 70 times is actually more, this does not necessitate the abundant thawab, the abundant reward, does not necessitate that the action that has more reward does not necessitate that it is more beloved to Allah than the action that is lesser than it. بل قد يكون العمل الأقل أحب إلى الله تعالى. Rather, the action that is a little one, that is lesser, may be more beloved to Allah Ta'ala. وإن كان الكثير أكثر ثوابا, even though the al-kathir, the abundant, has more reward in it, أكثر ثوابا. وهذا كما في المسند. This is like the hadith in the musnad عنه صلى الله عليه وسلم, from him عليه الصلاة والسلام, that he said دم عفراء, regarding the udhiyah, يعني في الأضحية, regarding the sacrifice, دم عفراء أحب إلي من دم سوداوين, that the shedding the blood of a white animal, sheep, is better than the blood of two black ones. Right? So 2 and 1. The one which is lesser is more beloved to Allah than the 2. Right? So the fact that the action has more reward does not mean that it is better than the other action. which does not have a lot of reward mentioned to it. He said, كما أن, and this relates to the time that is coming now, the أضحية. كما أن ذبح الشاة الواحدة يوم النحر, exactly like slaughtering one sheep on the day of sacrifice, أحب إلى الله من الصدقة بأضعاف ثمنها. It is more beloved to Allah than multitudes of its price. Right? يعني وإن كثر ثواب الصدقة, even that the reward of the sadaqah may be so immense, so great. This refutes the claims every year, those philosophers يعني, that opinionated, who go every year they talk, oh, so many Muslims, they spend so much money on the udhiyah. Let's not spend on the udhiyah. Take this money and send it to Palestine, send it to Pakistan, send it to, because the people are poor and they need يعني all the sadaqah throughout the year does not work, except when the udhiyah comes, they want the udhiyah to be put on hold. Do the udhiyah and do sadaqah for all over the world. يعني what's wrong with you? يعني why you want to have this sha'ira, this يعني symbol of Eid on that day? The most important thing is shedding the blood. That is more beloved. أحسن الأعمال في العشر, the best action during the 10 days of Dhul-Hijjah, right, is the offering of the sacrifice on Eid and the 3 days after it. So even if you say, oh, I'm gonna pay $1,000, I'm gonna pay $10,000 in sadaqah, still udhiyah is better than your 10,000. Although udhiyah is less, maybe it will cost you $100 or $300 or $400 or $500, depending where you do it. Here, $400-$500 maybe. Overseas, some places the same, $300-$400. Some places, just $100. Right? But Allah loves for the sacrifices to be offered during that special event. You know Ibrahim and Ismail alayhima salatu was the story and all of that, right? But every year, and the same thing with the Umrah and the Hajj, right? The same thing with the Umrah and the Hajj, right? Which that one at least maybe, when you have done Umrah and Hajj the Farida, definitely the voluntary Hajj and Umrah, you spend the money in jihad is better. You spend the money, right? It could be better in other venues, but the farida you cannot. Every year you are going and then. So this is the case. So here he goes also. وكذلك قراءة سورة بتدبر ومعرفة وتفهم. Likewise, reciting a surah, a chapter, بتدبر, with reflection, ومعرفة, and knowledge and understanding, وتفهم, understanding, comprehension, وجمع القلب عليها, وجمع القلب عليها, gathering your heart together upon that recitation of that one surah. أحب إلى الله تعالى, أحب إلى الله تعالى, more beloved to Allah تعالى, من قراءة ختمة, سردا وهذا, is better than reciting a whole khatma, the whole Quran, sardan, one after the other, surah after the other, وهذا, and quickly, right? وإن كثر ثواب هذه القراءة, even though the reward of this recitation is a lot. How is it a lot? Every letter is multiplied by 10, right? So the whole khatma is like what they said, 3 million, something like that. So even though like Surah Ali Imran, that you study, you understand the meaning, you recite it slowly, you figure it out, you know, is better than you don't understand anything. Okay, there's a lot of reward in that, no doubt. But that recitation has a lot of reward, but it does not mean that because it has more reward is better than this one, right? The other recitation. وكذلك صلاة ركعتين يقبل العبد فيهما على الله تعالى بقلبه وجوارحه. Likewise, praying 2 rakat, which the servant will turn to Allah in them with his heart and his body parts. ويفرغ قلبه كله لله فيهما, and he will have his heart completely dedicated. He will evacuate everything and completely dedicate his heart to Allah in them, these 2 rakat. This is more beloved, أحب إلى الله تعالى, more beloved to Allah, من 200 ركعة خالية من ذلك, than 200 rakat that are void of that. وإن كثر ثوابهما عددا, even though their reward will be a lot in terms of numbers. ومن هذا سبق درهم 100,000 درهم. 1 dirham beats 100,000 dirham, the hadith, right? Yani, if someone, all of his money that he has is 2 dirham, and he donated 1 dirham, compare that to someone who has 1,000,000 dirhams, so he gave him 100,000. The first one, he donated what? Half of his wealth. Half of his wealth. The other one, he just, you know, this 100,000 is like, just maybe he doesn't even count. He just takes a stack, you know, and just donation, and that's it. The other one, 2 dirham, and he paid half of it, right? Like you have two raghif, two loaves of bread. You give the loaf of bread to someone, and then you use half, the other loaf. Or maybe someone else comes and they give them the other loaf, and they stay with nothing. Right? This one, he donated everything. Whereas the other one, maybe, you know, he donated 10 loaves of bread, but maybe he's a baker. He has a whole storage of bread. Right? And in another place, he compared this recitation. He said, you recite 1 surah with reflection and understanding, compared to reciting a lot of surahs without this. He said is like someone who donated a very precious pearl or jawhara, right? And the other one, he donated a lot of small pearls or 2 small stones. And the other one is a big. Those other ones are much more, but this one is bigger and better, right? طيب. He said, فالعمل اليسير الموافق لمرضاة الرب. The little action that matches and agrees with the pleasure of the Lord, وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم, and the sunnah of his messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم, is more beloved, أحب إلى الله تعالى من العمل الكثير إذا خلا عن ذلك. It's more beloved to Allah from the abundant, a lot of deeds that is devoid of that, أو عن بعضه, or devoid of some of it. ولهذا قال الله تعالى, this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِنَّا جَعَلْنَا مَا عَلَى الْأَرْضِ زِينَةً لَهَا لِنَبْلُوَهُمْ. We made what is on the earth as an adornment for it, لِنَبْلُوَهُمْ, to test them and try them. أَيُّهُمْ, who amongst them is أحسن عملا, who amongst them is best in doing good deeds. فهو سبحانه وتعالى, he سبحانه وتعالى, إنما زين الأرض بما عليها ليبلو عباده. He only beautified the earth with what's on it to test and examine his servants. أيهم أحسن عملا, who amongst them is best in deeds. لا أكثر عملا, not who is best or who is most abundant, أكثر, in doing good deeds. The best, not quality, not quantity, as they say. والعمل الأحسن, and the action that is the best هو الأخلص والأصوب. It's the most sincere and the most correct. وهو الموافق لمرضاته ومحبته. And that is the deed that agrees with his pleasure سبحانه وتعالى and his love. دون الأكثر الخالي من ذلك. Not the most or the most abundant that is devoid of that. إذا عرفت ذلك. Now we go back to the siwak. If you got to know that, فلا يمتنع أن تكون الصلاة التي فعلها فاعلها على وجه الكمال. If this you understand it now, then it is not impossible that the salah, which the doer who did it, he did it in the most perfect aspect, most perfect way, على وجه الكمال, حتى أتى بسواكها, to a point that he did the siwak, الذي هو مطهرة لمجاري القرآن, which serves to purify the channels from which the Quran will be recited, the mouth, وذكر الله, and the remembrance of Allah, ومرضاة للرب, and that it is a pleasure for the Lord, واتباع للسنة, following the sunnah, والحرص على حفظ هذه الحرمة الواحدة التي أكثر النفوس تهملها. He did this action while he was so keen to preserve and guard this hurma, this sacred sunnah of siwak, just one sacred sunnah that most of the souls actually ignore and abandon. ولا تلتفت إليه, they don't pay attention to it. حتى كأنها غير مشروعة ولا محبوبة, to a point that it may be it's as if it's not legislated and it's not loved by Allah. لكن هذا المصلي اعتادها فحافظ عليها وأتى بها. But this praying person, he preserved this sunnah, he got used to it, so he preserved it and he fulfilled it, he practiced it, أتى بها توددا وتحببا إلى الله تعالى, seeking the love, seeking the pure love. الود هو خالص المحبة, right? Pure love. توددا, out of him purely loving Allah, and out of him loving Allah, making himself beloved, تحببا إلى الله, واتباعا لسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم, and following the sunnah of his messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said, فلا يبعد أن تكون صلاة هذا أحب إلى الله من 70 صلاة. It's not far-fetched. It's not لا يبعد. It's not far-fetched that the salah of this person is more beloved to Allah than 70 prayers تجردت عن ذلك, that does not have that, that's stripped out of this sunnah. Wallahu a'lam, and Allah knows best. This is from the book المنار المنيف مختصرا, يعني summarized. I think this is the answer of the Sheikh Abdullah bin Aqil, Allahu a'lam, رحمه الله تعالى. Abdullah bin Aqil, the Sheikh, يعني well-known Sheikh, رحمه الله تعالى, Sheikh al-Hanabila. So this is the fact. Now we are sufficed, يعني people not to use maybe the siwak, maybe this is too much يعني to ask for. Just يعني if you ate garlic and onion and all of the يعني, sometimes I'm in the minbar, wallahi, in the minbar, I'm on a line by myself and I can smell the garlic and the onion, especially you go to these shawarma places, يعني forget it, you are excused, akhi, go home. Or tell them no garlic, no onion, no. One time I went to one of these shawarma places, I told him no garlic, no onion, so he did it. كيف بده ياكلها هاي؟ قال how is he gonna eat this? Wallahi, they put in it already, they put garlic and they put in the meat itself, because when they tatbil, you know, this spices and all of they put in there, right? So sometimes it's difficult to get rid of it, although you tell them not to use it, right? And I have and every time I have those those brothers who are, and one of them, he's not here now. He would be happy to hear me say that. And he always complain because he's a guy who's super extra clean. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward him with the best. Right? He's always complaining about the smells that the people, there is water, there is soap, there is tell the people. But, how many times we're gonna tell the people? We don't want to go overboard, but this is a reality. At least, we have some people, they have issues with their gums, especially some of the older people, some of the people who have teeth problem. They have some areas like, may Allah help them, they have rotten, areas. But even that, there are some liquids that you use, you gargle with, it will fix, mostly throughout the day. Some of them, they are very strong, very good, right? You pay for it. What? It's $15. It will work for you for more than a month, right? And the least you can do is not to hurt the people who are coming to the masjid to pray, right? So what if you took your I know some people look at this strange. I used to go to school. I have my toothbrush and my toothpaste. To the washroom. Sometimes some non-Muslims, they give you the look, but so what? So what? Then later on, I see even some of them, they don't care, they do it. So what? Right? So what? Right? Even in the public places or public washrooms, what's wrong? You took your toothbrush and your antiseptic or whatever liquid to clean your teeth or make it smell good. That is something good, inshallah, and it is a sunnah. And you heard what Al-Imam Ibn al-Qayyim is saying here. It's not strange for him whether the hadith is authentic or not, although there is this big discussion about it. But imagine that the hadith is authentic and you are praying for the same prayer, you get one reward. The other one who used the siwak, he gets 70 reward, right? Imagine something you do, you get $1 and someone gets a $70. I think you will feel, you will feel really you're a loser, right? So this is the case, and Allah knows best. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. جزاكم الله خيرا وبارك الله فيكم. عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته يا برادر محبوب. بارك الله فيك.